Well, a lot of parents don't think about signing their children up for swim lessons until they're 4 or 5, but the fact is that the biggest cause of accidental death for children under 4 is drowning. Here to tell us about a program that aims to get an early start in the water are Michelle Smith and Paige Holt. They're both certified infant swimming resource instructors here in Jacksonville. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, what is it that prompted you to begin teaching infant swimming?
Well, I put both of my kids through ISR, and watching them progress in their lessons was amazing. And I just watched in amazement every lesson. And I thought, if I ever had a backyard pool, I would love to do this. And when we bought our house and it had a backyard pool, I called my kids instructor and said, how do I do this?
Wow. And
Yeah.
so you were a parent watching this go on. How was it for you as a parent first experiencing that?
It was exciting for me, honestly. My kids both cried every single lesson, and kids do cry in lessons sometimes because it's unfamiliar to them. But watching their progress and then being able to take them to our community pool and let them swim and watch other people's reactions, I mean, to me, uh, it was just exciting. I ignored the crying. The crying didn't bother me because I knew how much fun they were having on the weekends when I would take them to the pool.
How long does it take for them to progress to a point where, I mean, because I was watching the videos last night where the kids are, plopped into the pool, they kind of go into the surface, they eventually flip around and come up face up and they float. Um, but I would imagine that is not the first thing that happens.
No, no. So for children 6 months to about a year, we just teach them to roll over and float. And that's about a 4-week process every day, 10 minutes a day.
10 minutes a day. And so why is the time of the lesson so constrained?
Well, number one, we want to make sure that short lessons make sure that the child isn't ingesting water or too much water. As instructors, we have an interview. We call it a BUDS interview with the parents every day, checking on things like bowel, urine, diet, sleep, to make sure if there's something we can't see in the water that it would show up with the parents.
Mhm.
It also keeps us from having physical fatigue or temperature fatigue. And
Yeah.
those are things the instructors are trained to look for.
And so parents that come to this programming, are they prepared sort of psychologically, emotionally for what it's going to look like to have their kid, you know, placed in a position where they'll be partly underwater?
I try to prepare all of my parents in advance, and I ask them to have encouraging faces and smiles on the pool deck, and if they can't do that, they are welcome to hand me their child and walk away, and I try to set up my iPad to take video for them so they can see, what's happening in the lesson, and send it to them. So, yes, I definitely try to prepare them in
How do you
advance.
do that?
Um,
How do you prepare them? What do you tell them to expect? And how do you tell them to sort of keep a strong face?
Well, tell them that I'm always gonna focus on the positive. So I'm always gonna give the parents something positive to go home and talk about lessons, whether it's, "Wow, did you see the way he held his breath and opened his eyes underwater? Wow, did you see the way he reached up and grabbed the wall so strong? Wow, did you see the way he rolled over and took a great breath on his back?" Yeah, he may have been crying and screaming the entire time. And I really try to encourage my parents to not talk about the crying and the screaming and focus on that positive, what they learned that day so that that child can internalize it because even if they're not talking, they're internalizing. And if they go home and hear, "Yeah, she screamed the entire lesson," that child's going to say, "I sure did. I'm going to do it again tomorrow." But if they hear, "Wow, Miss Michelle said she came up and she took a good breath, and Miss Michelle said this, and Miss Michelle said that," they're gonna internalize that and hopefully come back with that attitude the next day.
And Paige, how sticky are these lessons for kids? I mean, if they're learning very, very young like this,
Mhm.
do those lessons stay within them? Is it a skill that once they learn, or do they have to keep coming back at it?
Absolutely. So they learn by sensory motor, which is kind of like what we do with riding a bike or roller skating. And so they never lose the skill they learned, but as children grow, they get longer legs, longer arms, their body composition changes. And so they need a refresher lesson just to kind of get used to their new body, a new type. Also, developmentally, they're more capable to do more skills.
Mhm.
Just like an infant learns to crawl, then learns to walk, and then they learn to jump and run and do things. The children, the older they get, the more they're capable of doing.
And obviously, you're doing this so children are safe when they're in water or near water. But is it a skill that is applicable to adults as well? I mean, a lot of adults don't know how to swim. Is it the kind of thing that they also can learn?
They can. I've actually taught a grandmother who brought her grandchild to lessons, and it's definitely more challenging because we always talk about kids don't really have the fear of the water because they really don't understand what's going on. They may feel uncomfortable, and that's why they're crying, but adults truly have the fear. So getting past that for the adults is the tough part. But yeah, anybody can learn how to do it.
Just briefly, Paige, if people want information, where can they get it?
At infantswim.com.
All right. Paige Holt, Michelle Smith, thanks so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
All right.